Blessings and welcome to today's Ascension Alchemist podcast, where we get to align with mighty God presence and embody that eternal truth so we can bring the blessings, the heavenly blessings onto this earth by everything that we face. And remembering that we're not alone, there is this divine presence that's so glorious that is carrying us even in the most challenging time. And we get to be a blessing to this earth, to humanity. We are part of the solution, and we're not the crazy ones. We're the crazy, awesome ones that is bold enough to do this. So welcome, welcome, welcome. It's Rev HoniB here. This is my solo episode today. And I sure have a lot to share. And I want to share from this week. I want to really share from this week, coming off of 3 days of this profound aspire for wealth experience that Michael and I had. And it's just so interesting. And I am sure many of you relate. There are times where something comes into your experience that you hadn't actually planned for. Yet you had prayed for it, but you hadn't planned for it. So when it shows up in your experience, you just know you have to say yes. So you clear your schedule, you say yes, and you go for it, and then you're immersed in it. And while you're immersed in it, you recognize it's completely opposite to what you're doing, what you're offering, where your focus and direction is. Yet here's this 180 degrees, something completely different. Yet at the same time, it is also part of your prayer you put out, but you just never imagined it will be in this way. I'm sure some of you can relate. Isn't it wild when we come into that? And here we are, dive in, feet in, all in, completely all in. And then while knowing logically this makes no sense because, for example, we are in, this is with Michael and I, we are in transformation. We are all about God Almighty. We are all about the blessings, the heavenly realm, bringing here, being part of the solutions and transforming these limiting thoughts and beliefs and helping people remember who they are. So here we are in Aspire Wealth, where everything is talking about the different retirement plans, not just Roth IRA, not just 501k, things we've never even heard of. Different structures set up, all kinds of different things where for 3 days our heads was spinning because we're like, how did we get here? So of course, the blessings was we got to meet these amazing people. They all have their businesses. Everybody's a business entrepreneur. And yet the perfection was so perfect because I got to see that what we're offering, when the way Michael and I help people self-regulate their emotions, handle their nervous system, so that way they can handle the bigger projects and, of course, the bigger visions that God Almighty has given to them. In order to handle it, individuals have to be in a great nervous system regulations. And the reason why we know this is because we've had to do it ourselves. And we really had to do it. We come from being not definitely regulated, and how the emotions would have a greater hold over us, which I'm sure many of you can relate. So here we are at this experience, going back and sharing that logically it made no sense, yet it was exactly part of the prayers that we had put out. So then it came to their next experience in that, which was to become their member, and 1 year to have our entire structure set up differently with them. And it was quite a bit of an investment. So I had no question from on the inside. Something rose inside of me, day 2, not even day 3. I said, yes, we must. Yes. And Michael's like, are you kidding me? I said, we have to. So again, logically, it made no sense. What are we doing? Yet on Sunday, after everything, the 3-day was finished, we were both sitting there, and I was just embracing how all these prayers we've put out, the passion that God has put inside of our heart, the dream that God Almighty has put inside of us, we want to deliver this. And some of you have been, part of my circle for a while, part of me and Michael's circle, and the visions from my NDE from 14 years ago, these temples of divine that have to be created. Yet we need the funding to be able to do this, and the right funding. And we have not had access to this. So here we were with this opportunity and access. And of course, we jumped on it. I jumped head on. That's usually me, because I ask questions later. I jump in. I don't have all the answers. And I found whenever I'm trying to think things through, that doesn't work for me. It might work for some people. That's just not for me. Again, I'm not saying this for any of you to do this, but here's in our community, I'm just sharing it. And I believe many of you are like this. There is a gut instinct. It's not emotions. It's gut instincts. That's so truth. You have no other evidence other than that, knowing that's total truth. So you have to say yes. So that's me. I said yes. And what comes with it afterward is always very interesting, because here it is. I found myself in this beautiful, unplanned place, yet clearly God Almighty had planned us there. Then signed up for a 1-year membership that I hadn't planned, yet God Almighty clearly had planned for us, while we're in the midst of finishing up our mentorship. Oh, by the way, speaking of mentorship, I finished my keynote speaking. Yes. Special gratitude to Jen, and how great that is. Especially Jen is part of this Aspire tour. She's one of the keynote speakers, and I'm preparing myself also to be able to speak on stage at Aspire and other stages as well. So it's phenomenal to see how all of these loop together. And going back to this, when we take these steps, right, where logically it makes no sense, but we're being stretched to go for it, because the answer of the prayers that we've put out comes through people. Have you ever noticed how when you pray for something, sometimes you receive it, but you receive it it's actually through people. And a lot of times, if you're not attuned, if you're not aligned, we're not embodied, we dismiss it. We ask for it, but then we don't allow ourselves to receive it. It's the craziest thing. So this time I said, yes, I'm going to receive this. But what comes with it afterwards is interesting, because then it is going back to nervous system regulation, the emotional regulation, and down regulating the emotions to make sure the human body, especially the amygdala, the reptilian brain, as well as the frontal cortex, they're all aligned, so the survivor brain isn't kicking in. And this is the area that Michael and I work with individuals when their entire system is dysregulated, because we learned it through the hard way ourselves. We were struggling in this area for quite a while, until we had to take that time and become educated and learn and be able to take charge of this. And of course, then allow God Almighty to take even greater charge. So that way we were not slaves to our emotions or to our nervous system. We were able to be in charge with that power and that presence. And having said that, yet still, when we take these leaps, we do experience the human body having to align with that next step. And having to align with that next step comes with the space that is needed for human body to be nurtured, blessed, loved, cared for, so that it too can come into it. So it's so interesting because I'm sure many of you can recognize, you're probably having some light bulbs going on. So have you ever had where you take a leap, right? Leap of faith, you sign up for something and it seems like it's above you, bigger than you, or just because you don't know it, you have to grow yourself into it. And over the next few days, there's more nervousness, there's more anxiety, there's more worry, there's more concern. There is this uneasy feeling that, woof, I don't know if I can handle it. Now, there's also maybe excitement mixed in that, which is also very important. But sometimes that dysregulation can then kick you off, and before you actually start it, jeopardize it. So have you done that? I sure have. I've done that before. And if you've done that, you know it doesn't feel good for the very thing that you were very excited about. You just kick yourself out of it. And as you kicked yourself out of it, you didn't go through it, then you don't follow through. And then it seems like your dreams are being crushed. And then your flame comes down, your passion comes down, then you suppress yourself. It's a really, really unhealthy cycle. And again, I'll be the first one to admit that I've experienced that. Yet when we in this case this week, we had a lot going on. So as I finished my 8th training, 8-week training with my keynote speaking, and I have 4 more weeks to go with the podcast training, yay. We also are wrapping up, Michael and I, 1 more week with our relationship coach, which we love so much. We wanted to take this relationship coaching so we can hear from a research-based some of the things that couples are struggling. So when we're working with the couples, we can help them greater from a research part as well as from God Almighty. And also to see where the areas that can really benefit us, which certainly some areas has really benefited Michael and I, really with some of these beautiful exercises. So as we have this, there's another mentorship that we took on with Forbes. She's remarkable. That starts next week. So again, I found myself having to adjust this week, allow my human body to notice what it was noticing, that it seemed like it was a little bit more tired, a little bit more sluggish, a little bit more lethargic, and being more compassionate with it. So I knew I had to kick it into gear with exercise, going to the gym a little bit stronger, being able to journal more, and being able to increase my food, the necessity in sort of supplements, and also with all the advanced technology that we have at our home, be able to get on there greater. And being able to speak to some of the individuals that also sign up for the membership that we're now in touch with, seeing how their system got thrown off, I got to be a witness of the perfection of God Almighty that has placed us there, because these business entrepreneurs are not aware of this part. And at least I didn't see anywhere being mentioned, and how important this is. So I saw where Michael and I positioned so perfectly to help these entrepreneurs, because the speed in which going into this membership and the next training, and how fast everything moves. If you do not know yourself, if you're not aligned, you're not embodied with your truth, you can very easily get thrown off and burn out and have a very negative experience. So fortunately, because we're educated in it, you know how it's interesting. There's this education that we have in the school system. There are so many other education to be able to be educated. For example, on wealth, there's like all these physical ways that you have to be educated on wealth, but nobody talks about the wealth of, for example, the wealth of your well-being, the wealth of your peace, the wealth of your joy, the wealth of your love, the wealth of your kindness, the wealth of your compassion, the wealth of your understanding, the wealth of your friendships, the wealth of your connections, the wealth of your environment, the wealth of your creativity. There's so much intelligence around that wealth. So I feel like the IQ of wealth is so interesting. There's one part where clearly Michael and I were very low in our IQ in that physical part of materialization of the centers that these temples that we want to create. There's so many things that we have to know that we actually don't know. This is why we joined this, so we can learn and set ourselves properly to be able to have this come into reality. And yet there are these other parts of the wealth that it's totally missing. And there's again this perfection. Going back to the beginning of this conversation, you find yourself that here you are in a place that you hadn't planned for, yet you had prayed for. You're in a place where you hadn't planned to sign up for membership. Here you are. You're in a place where you're going in a direction that now suddenly you have to shift everything you want. Yet all of it is part of what you had prayed for. And here you are, totally like surprised, shocked, yet excited. But you prayed for it. So why can't you just receive and enjoy it? Because the human body isn't quite adjusted yet to go along to that fast speed that part is going. So how many of you can relate? And how many of you have found ways to adjust yourself and be kind and loving and compassionate to yourself along the way? It's quite a journey, huh? Yeah. Yeah, I found myself drinking the molecular hydrogen water so much more this week with our son, with the this common salt that's so remarkable. So my electric charge on the inside is greater. I've been journaling with God so much greater, talking to God Almighty and adjusting, aligning, embodying, and also being very honest where the areas that I have to let go. And coming into month of November, it was very clear certain areas right away I have to shut it down to create space, open up space, because often we haven't even created the space for it. So speaking of this, how many of you are interested in learning like a 5-minute quick daily checklist, kind of like to have yourself be supercharged with God Almighty? If you're interested, send me an email, info@ascensionalchemists.com, and request the daily supercharge list. That will be a free gift I give to you, so that way you can supercharge yourself as you start the day. It will really, really make a difference. And along the way, how important it is to love yourself and know where you are. Your truth is so, so important. Your truth is not what your human self says. Your truth is what God Almighty says about you. For example, this weekend, there is another 3-day conference right here in Washington, D.C. with Aspire that Michael and I had considered going. And yet, here was the truth. Here we have this. We've just coming off of the last 3 days, and we have so many so many incredible activities going to November that we have to adjust ourselves to. And all has already been given to us in the invisible. God Almighty has already blessed us with it. So we do not need to burn ourselves in receiving it. We can enjoy ourselves in receiving it. So we decided this weekend not to go, yet take this weekend to completely settle everything that we needed to settle. They're going into November, particularly because our courses, oh, by the way, yay, our courses is out on our website on the Academy page, which we're so excited. This is labor of 2.5 to 3 years, it's 3 years labor of love, all that we've been creating, teaching, and now people will be able to take the classes and go on a self-paced journey and really, really transform their lives. So that's being released this week as Michael goes to Florida. So we have all of these going on. And how important it is to love yourself every step of the way and be very truthful as you're stretching yourself, your human self, stretch it to that vision that already exists, that God Almighty has promised to you, yet do not compromise yourself along the way. This is what I wanted to leave you with. And I love to hear from you how this podcast today lands with you and what's been your takeaway. And the takeaway for me, for you, is to, when you have that deep calling on the inside, or that deep desire, or that deep gut feeling, take that actionable step. It may seem you hadn't planned for it, yet you had prayed for it. So trust it and take that step of faith and watch what will unfold. You're the only one who can be a witness to it. Have a beautiful day, everyone. Much love. Glorious day to you. And I'm going to start doing Farsi speaking podcasts on its own. That seems right. So may God Almighty bless you. May God Almighty allow you to love yourself greater. May God Almighty nourish you as you take these steps of faith and you experience the miracles upon miracles in your life. Much love.